The morning shift at Earth's Deep Space Command started like any other day. Commander Jake Miller was reviewing routine patrol reports when the emergency console lit up like a Christmas tree. The incoming signal was unlike anything he'd seen before, weak, desperate, and coming from deep space. Jake adjusted the frequency and nearly fell out of his chair when the translation software kicked in. The voice was alien, high-pitched, and trembling with fear. "This is Colony Leader, Thane of the Talarian settlement on Kepler 44-B. Our world is under attack by the Void Reapers. They're harvesting our planet. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need help. We have children here." The transmission cut to static, then repeated. Jake's hands shook as he pulled up the star charts. Kepler 442-B was a small agricultural world on the edge of known space. The Talarians were peaceful, farmers who grew food for half the galaxy. They had no weapons, no military, nothing but crops and families. Jake immediately patched a signal through to Admiral Robert Hayes at Sol Command. Hayes was a grizzled veteran who'd served in 3 different wars, but even he went pale when he heard the message. The Void Reapers were legend among spacefaring species, mechanical monsters that stripped entire worlds bare, leaving nothing but dead rock behind. "Sir, the Galactic Council forwarded this to us," Jake explained. "Their nearest fleet is 3 weeks out. The Talarians don't have 3 hours, let alone 3 weeks. Hayes stared at the tactical display showing their fleet positions. 200 ships scattered across the solar system on training exercises and patrol duties. It would take time to recall them all, time the aliens didn't have. But Hayes had seen too many good people die, while others debated and delayed. "Recall all ships immediately," Hayes ordered. "Full combat load. We launch in 2 hours." Jake blinked in surprise. "Sir, the Council is advising caution. They say no species has ever successfully fought the Void Reapers." Hayes stood up and looked out the command center's viewport at Earth below. "Jake, my grandson is 7 years old. Same age as some of those Talarian kids, I bet. If someone was coming to hurt him, would I want his neighbors to sit around talking about how dangerous the bad guys are? No, sir. Then we don't do that to other people's kids either. Send the recall order. Within minutes." Every human ship in the system was burning hard toward Earth. Captain Danny Wright brought his destroyer in so fast he had to reverse engines at the last second. Major Betty Ross landed her marine transport with landing gear still. Retracting the docks became a hive of activity as crews loaded weapons and supplies at record speed. The Galactic Council tried desperately to contact Earth Command. Ambassador Kethver's face appeared on the main screen, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. "Admiral Hayes, you must reconsider. The Void Reapers have destroyed civilizations that fought them for centuries. Your ships are powerful, but you are still new to space warfare." Hayes looked at the alien diplomat with steady eyes. "Ambassador, with respect, we're not new to fighting. Earth has been at war with something or someone for most of its history. The only thing new is fighting in space instead of dirt. But the Reapers are machines. They feel no fear, no pain, no mercy. Good thing we're not looking to make friends then." Hayes cut the transmission and turned to his staff. "Launch all ships. Tell them we've got kids to save and monsters to kill. Standard human operating procedure applies." The fleet launched, with a roar that shook the orbital stations. As the last ship cleared Earth's gravity well, Hayes sent one final message to the Council. "Message received. Fleet deploying. Tell those families to hold on. The cavalry's coming." The human fleet formed up faster than anyone thought possible. Captain Mike Thompson watched from his destroyer's bridge as ships appeared from every corner of the solar system. The Martian Defense Corps arrived in their sleek red-painted vessels, while the asteroid miners brought their heavy industrial ships loaded with enough firepower to crack moons. "Control, "This is Thompson. Vanguard Squadron ready for jump," Mike reported, checking his tactical display. His 5 destroyers would lead the charge, their experimental quantum drives pushing the limits of what human engineering could handle. Down in the Marine bays, Colonel Lisa Parker was giving her troops the kind of speech that would make a drill sergeant proud. "Listen up, Marines. We're about to fight machines that have been terrorizing the galaxy for centuries. They think they're tough because they don't feel pain. Well, neither do we when we're this angry." Her Marines checked their weapons and armor one last time. These weren't the peacekeeping forces that most alien species fielded. These were soldiers who'd trained in Earth's worst environments: Arctic tundra, desert heat, jungle humidity, and mountain thin air. They were heading into space to fight robots, and they were actually excited about it. The alien observers monitoring Earth's communications couldn't believe what they were hearing. Ambassador Kethver listened in horror as human ship captains traded jokes while loading nuclear warheads. Captain Jenny Walsh, from the Mars fleet, was actually laughing as she explained her attack plan to torpedo alien war machines. "This is madness," Kethver whispered to his aide. "They're treating this like some kind of game." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had a strange way of dealing with fear. The worse things got, the more they joked around. It wasn't that they didn't take the threat seriously, it was how they stayed sane when facing impossible odds. Admiral Hayes opened a fleet-wide channel as the last ships moved into formation. "All vessels, this is Hayes. We're about to jump into a fight that every expert says we can't win. The enemy has better ships, better weapons, and they've been doing this longer than our species has had fire. Anyone want to back out?" The response came back as a chorus of "hell no" from 200 ship captains. That's what I thought. Remember, we're not going there to win a war. We're going to save lives. Every minute we buy those families is another minute they get to see tomorrow. Every Reaper ship we take down is one less threat to innocent people everywhere. The quantum drives began to spin up, reality bending around each ship as they prepared to tear holes in space itself. The technology was barely tested, but it was the only way to reach the Tellarian system in time. Most species would never risk their entire fleet on experimental technology. "Captain." Thompson felt his ship shudder as the drive reached full power. "All ships, jump on my mark. Remember the plan: hit fast, hit hard, and don't stop moving. These machines are about to learn why you don't mess with Earth's neighbors." The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the entire human fleet vanished in flashes of twisted light. Never before had they seen a species commit their entire military force to save complete strangers. Most civilizations would send a small scouting force first, then spend weeks debating the risks as the last human ship disappeared into hyperspace. Their final transmission echoed across subspace frequencies: ride or die. No one gets left behind. Keth sat back in his chair, tentacles trembling. "By the stars, what have we unleashed?" His aide pulled up tactical projections of the coming battle. "Sir, the probability of human success is less than 12%. Then we'd better pray to whatever gods those Deathworlders believe in, because they're the only hope those families have." The human fleet tore through hyperspace and dropped right into hell. Captain Mike Thompson's destroyer emerged first, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Massive Void Reaper dreadnoughts hung in orbit like mechanical vultures, their geometric hulls bristling with weapons. Each one was easily 10 times the size of his ship, and there were dozens of them below. The planet's surface glowed with fires as the Reapers harvested everything they could find. Cities that had stood for centuries were being torn apart by massive mining beams. In the distance, Thompson could see escape pods fleeing the surface, carrying what remained of the Tellarian population. "Holy cow," whispered Lieutenant Amy Davis from the weapons station. "Those things are huge." "Yeah, well, so were the dinosaurs," Thompson replied, checking his tactical display. "All ships, This is Thompson. Remember what we learned in training. Big doesn't always mean better. Begin attack pattern, Delta 7. The alien observers monitoring the battle couldn't believe what they were seeing. Instead of forming a defensive line like every other species would do, the humans scattered in all directions. Their ships dove through debris fields at speeds that should have torn them apart. Weaving between energy beams like they were dancing, the Void Reapers turned their attention to these new arrivals, their mechanical minds calculating firing solutions. But every time they locked onto a human ship, it would suddenly change direction in ways that defied physics. The human pilots were pulling maneuvers that would turn most alien species into paste. Thompson to all ships, came the captain's voice over the comm. Anyone else think these guys are a little slow on the draw? My grandmother could dodge better than this, and she's been dead for 20 years. Lieutenant Davis laughed as she fired a spread of torpedoes at the nearest Reaper. Maybe they need better computer chips, sir. Think we should recommend a good tech support company? This was how humans dealt with terror. They made jokes about it. Down in the Marine bays, Major Tom Wilson was suiting up for the most dangerous mission of his life. His job was to lead boarding parties onto the Reaper ships and plant explosives in their vital systems. Listen up, Marines, Wilson called to his troops. We're about to board alien death machines that have been killing people for centuries. The good news is, they're just robots. The bad news is, they're really big robots with lots of sharp edges. His soldiers grinned behind their helmet visors. These were men and women who'd trained in Earth's most hostile environments. They'd fought in deserts where the heat could kill you, jungles where everything wanted to eat you, and mountains where the air was too thin to breathe. A spaceship full of angry robots was just another Tuesday for them. The first boarding pod launched from Wilson's ship and slammed into the side of a Reaper dreadnought. The Marines cut through the alien hull with plasma torches, the metal glowing white-hot as they worked. When they finally broke through, they found themselves in corridors that were literally on fire. Well, this is cozy, Wilson muttered, as his suit's cooling system kicked into overdrive. The temperature inside the Reaper ship was hot enough to melt lead, but the human environmental suits were designed for extremes. Davis, how's our welcome committee? Lieutenant Amy Davis, who'd transferred to the boarding party, checked her scanner. Looks like about 20 mechanical friends heading our way, sir. They don't seem very happy to see us. Can't imagine why. We brought flowers and everything. The first Reaper drone rounded the corner, its red sensors glowing like angry eyes. It was 8 feet tall and covered in weapons, but Wilson's Marines didn't even flinch. They'd been fighting things that wanted to kill them since they learned to walk down on the planet's surface. The surviving Talarians huddled in underground shelters, watching the battle through periscopes. They couldn't believe what they were. Seeing these humans were actually fighting the Void Reapers, and winning. The Void Reapers had never faced anything like this. For thousands of years, they'd fought civilized species who followed logical battle patterns. The humans were doing everything wrong, and somehow it was working perfectly. Captain Jenny Walsh's cruiser was taking heavy damage from 3 Reaper dreadnoughts when she made a decision that horrified the alien observers. Instead of retreating, she aimed her ship directly at the largest enemy vessel and hit full engines. Walsh, to Fleet Command, she called over the radio, sounding almost cheerful. I'm about to try something really stupid. If it works, drinks are on me. If it doesn't, well, it's been fun. Her ship slammed into the Reaper hull at full speed, the impact tearing through both vessels. The explosion took out 2 more enemy ships in a chain reaction that lit up the entire system. Most species would consider this a tragic loss. The humans cheered and immediately started planning similar attacks down in the depths of a captured Reaper ship. Sergeant Ben Clark was having the time of his life. The big Marine was hunched over an alien computer terminal, his thick fingers dancing across holographic controls that weren't designed for human hands. Hey, Lieutenant, he called to his squad leader. Remember that alien puzzle game we played? Back on Mars? The one with all the weird symbols? Yeah, why? Because this Reaper computer code looks exactly like level 47. I think I can hack this thing. Clark had grown up playing video games, solving puzzles, and breaking into systems for fun. What the Reapers thought was advanced alien technology, he saw as just another game to beat. Within minutes, he'd figured out their command structure and started sending false orders to their ships. This is too easy, he muttered, watching as two Reaper vessels turned their weapons on each other. These guys need better programmers. My little sister could write better code than this. The tide of battle began to shift as more human boarding parties reached Reaper ships. The machines had calculated that no organic species could survive in their superheated corridors, but they hadn't counted on humans. Major Tom Wilson's Marines were fighting robots in temperatures that would cook most aliens alive, and they were winning. Wilson to Clark, came the Major's voice over the comm. Please tell me you're making progress with that computer. It's getting a little warm in here. Almost got it, sir. Just need to, ... there. Clark hit one final command, and suddenly the Reaper ship's weapons powered down. How's that feel, you oversized toasters? But the real turning point came when Captain Laura White realized what she had to do. Her ship was badly damaged, limping through space with half her crew injured. The largest Reaper command vessel was coordinating the enemy fleet, and conventional weapons weren't making a dent in its shields. White looked at her tactical display and made a calculation that would have made her academy instructors proud. Her ship still had one working engine and a full load of nuclear warheads. The math was simple, even if the cost was high. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the ship's intercom. Abandon ship immediately. That's an order. Her crew protested, but White was firm. She waited until the last escape pod cleared her ship, then opened a channel to Admiral Hayes. Admiral, this is White. I've got a clear shot at their command ship, but it's a one-way trip. Hayes' voice was quiet. Laura, you don't have to do this. Sir, I've got 2 kids back home who deserve to grow up in a galaxy where monsters like this don't exist. Besides, someone's got to show these machines what humans do when you threaten our families. White aimed her dying ship at the massive Reaper command vessel and pushed her engines to maximum. As she accelerated toward the enemy, she thought about her children safe on Earth. Tell my kids I kept my promise, she transmitted, just before impact. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The silence after battle was always the hardest part. Admiral Robert Hayes stood on his bridge, watching the last Void Reaper ships limp away into deep space. Of the massive fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, only a handful remained. They'd learned something today that would shake their mechanical minds. Humans don't give up, and they don't abandon their friends. Captain Mike Thompson's voice crackled over the comm. Admiral, we're getting reports from the surface. The Talarians are coming out of their shelters. Looks like we saved most of them. Hayes nodded, feeling the weight of the lives lost in his own fleet. 17 ships destroyed, hundreds of good people gone, including Captain Laura White. But thousands of Talarian families were alive because of their sacrifice. In Hayes' mind, that was a trade worth making. Down on the planet's surface, Dr. Mark Johnson was setting up field hospitals with his medical teams. The Talarians were tall, thin creatures with large eyes that reminded him of deer. Many were injured from the bombardment, but they kept bringing the human medics gifts, flowers, food, small carved trinkets. Doc, called Nurse Betty Ross, this little one keeps trying to give you something. A young Talarian child, no bigger than a human 6-year-old, held out a small wooden carving of a ship. It looked just like one of the human destroyers. Johnson knelt down and accepted the gift with a smile. Thank you, he said softly. The child didn't understand English, but smiles were universal. 3 days later, the Galactic Council finally arrived with their relief fleet. Ambassador Cuthbert, Ship docked with Hayes' flagship, and the alien diplomat stepped aboard looking like he'd seen a ghost. "Admiral Hayes," Kethfer began, his tentacles twitching nervously. "The Council wishes to offer compensation for your losses. We have rare metals, advanced technology, credits worth more than your planet's entire economy." Hayes was standing in his observation deck, watching his crews distribute supplies to Talarian refugees. He didn't even turn around when he answered, "Keep it." "I'm sorry," I said, "keep it. We didn't come here for a reward." Kethfer's translator struggled with the concept. "But your people died for strangers. Your ships were damaged fighting our enemies. Surely you want something in return." Hayes finally turned to face the alien ambassador. His eyes were tired but steady. "Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. When we see a house on fire, we don't ask if the family inside can pay us before we help. We just help. That's what neighbors do." The ambassador stared at him for a long moment. "Your species is ... unusual. Yeah, we get that a lot." Within a week, something remarkable started happening. Other alien species began sending distress calls directly to Earth, instead of the Galactic Council. A mining colony under pirate attack, a research station threatened by space storms, a passenger liner with failing life support. They all asked for the humans. Dr. Johnson was treating a wounded Martian pilot when he heard the latest request, over the ship's comms system. "Earth Command, this is the Centauri trade station. We have a medical emergency and need immediate assistance. Please send help." Hayes approved the mission without hesitation. His fleet was barely back to fighting strength, but they were already preparing to jump back into danger for complete strangers. Commander Jake Miller, now serving as Hayes' chief of staff, approached with the latest reports. "Sir, we're getting requests faster than we can respond. The Council is starting to complain that we're making them look bad." Hayes laughed, the first time Miller had heard him laugh since the battle. "Jake, record a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need a permanent station out here. Someone needs to watch the frontier, and apparently we're the only ones stubborn enough to never quit," as the human ships prepared for their next mission. Alien observers noted something that would reshape galactic politics forever. These Deathworlders didn't just fight for their own kind, they fought for anyone who needed help. In a galaxy full of ancient civilizations, the newest species had just become everyone's big brother, and they seemed to like the job.